Your daddy Ross felt like Mama was one of his daughters?
Yeah, see, actually she was his niece, but he took, he had to pick out everybody's mate. He didn't want me to marry Jenny because he thought you had to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time he had proved himself by the time my brother had the accident with the gun, and it was Uncle Lucius that drove him from Burgaw to Wilmington.
Wow.
He was in the backseat holding Vernon.
Oh my goodness.
And they lived in that pink house. Aunt Sil and Uncle Lucius did. See, Aunt Sil and Uncle Lucius were living with Daddy Charlie and Mother in that house.
Oh, they were.
But when they brought me home, Aunt Sil and Uncle Lucius moved out and moved to the apartment down across from the Bannerman's houses, an upstairs, a downstairs apartment, and the Horns that were brother and sister were brother to Mr. Horn that ran that were the neighbors. They bought the house next door with the Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
The Rudolphs bought it.
Mm-hmm.
The Horns had to live there. And you may remember Jew
Horn?
Odom. She was Jew Horn.
Okay, I remember that name.
Well, they were neighbors for years.
Okay.
And Miss Horn dressed like an old lady, and so did Aunt Sally Marshman, who was Aunt Sil's aunt. She said, if they want to look like old women, they can, but I'm not going to. And of course, Uncle Lucius went right along with that because he wanted to pick out her clothes and have her look. And one day after she was gone, I went to Margaret's, and Margaret picked out clothes when she went to buy them that she thought Aunt Sil would like. And so Aunt Sil would usually get her clothes from her. And so after Aunt Sil was gone, I went to get something there on sale. And I came back to the house and showed it and tried it on for Jennings and Uncle Lucius. And Uncle Lucius said, I don't like that.
I can remember Mama buying all those dresses and bringing 5 of them home and to see which ones Poppy approved of. And then she'd take the other ones back.
Can you imagine dating?
I can remember I can remember when she used to do that.
I can too, yeah.
Well, she was always well dressed, and he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the maddest I ever
always
saw
had
was
that
somebody stole his hat.
Stole that,
Weren't you gonna ask
didn't you say it was a red velvet hat?
Weren't you gonna ask Vicki how Mom and Daddy met?
I didn't usually hear Uncle Lucius talk like this. He said, if I ever see that red hat walking down the street on somebody's head, I'm snatching it off.
Oh yeah, because somebody stole it, right?
Yeah,
somebody stole it at the K&W
at the friendly cafeteria.
Oh, okay.
At the cafeteria.
Then they come to the friendly cafeteria downtown Wilmington.
Oh, okay.
And he hung it on the hook or something, and somebody stole it. Yeah. So how did Mama and Daddy meet each other?
We were trying to remember.
Both of them were teachers, but they
I'm talking about. Well, you're talking about Mama and Poppy.
Yeah. How did your mom and daddy
meet?
meet?
How did they meet? Then we'll get back to Mama and Poppy.
Well, Sally Bowen. And if I said Sally Bowen in Burgaw, they know exactly who I was talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
Phibbs' mama.
Yeah, Phibbs' mama. She was one of a kind.
I remember her.
Just absolutely one of a kind. But when Miss Miller was living for that short time in Burgaw, they were around the corner for each other.
Mommy lived in Burgaw?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Your granddaddy, well, he didn't get benefits.
Oh, Daddy.
From the government that he should have gotten.
Right.
And so he was struggling to get a better job, and they moved to Burgaw for that. Well, then he got a better offer and came back to Wilmington. But Sally was just all over town. She was talkative and she never saw a stranger, and she was kind of like the Indian lady. She'd walk up and ask you most anything, and very friendly. I mean, you couldn't help but love her. But and Dana, who I loved, because he was across the street when they took me home with them, and I took my first little baby steps to Dana Bowen. But anyway, Sally and Miss Miller just hit it off because they both like to get out and meet people and socialize. So they walk around the block. They were just right around the block from each other, right around the corner. And Miss Miller wasn't there long, but long enough to be a real good friend of Sally. So they would talk on the telephone to each other after they moved back to Wilmington. And Miss Miller said, "Sally, send some of those Burgall boys down here so that they meet our girls." And so Sally talked to Fib, and Fib got Lucius to agree to go. And then, let's see, your mother, anyway, Fib instigated it. And
I knew Fib had something to do with it.
I guess your daddy called the coastline and asked to speak to Peggy.
Oh, she was at work.
And he said, and get I'm gonna bring my friend, that Clark.
Okay,
And
Clark Bradshaw.
Clark never had a car to drive, and Lucius did a lot of paying for Clark. They were saving their money.
Yeah.
Bradshaw's were. And I love Clark, though I don't but he was on a strict allowance, and so she called Maurice and said, "Maurice, we got
Mama
a blind date." And,
called Maurice.
and so that's how
It was a blind date.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Sally Bowen is responsible.
So how did Mama and Poppy meet then?
Well, they were both teachers,
Uh-huh.
and one taught, and I can't tell you where they taught, but it was they would come into the train station on the weekend, and the families would be waiting. People went down to the train station to watch it come in.
Wow.
And so they became aware of each other, and then they started writing to each other during the week, and that started their courtship. And Aunt Sil was living with Toji, and
We found a lot of those letters.
Uh-huh.
We have some of those letters.
That Poppy wrote to Mama, yeah.
Yeah.
Love letters.
And I think she wrote to him. We've got them. We've got some of them. We found them in the garage.
Love letters.
Yeah. And let's see, I guess it was, I don't know, it was either Daddy Charlie or Daddy Ross, I can't say, that and he lived up the railroad track. He had to.
Poppy did?
Uh-huh. Lived up, if you're facing the railroad from downtown, he lived up that way, up the railroad track. He was kind of like a little bit out of town. That's one reason Daddy Ross didn't know much about him.
Okay.
And you've heard the story about him walking down to get the ice. Well, but anyway, kid said with those long feet, he's gonna get them tangled up in the vines and fall down and be late for your days. That's what Daddy Charlie would tell him, but tell Aunt Sil. But they loved each other. I've told you that she would come out to the house and comb his dandruff.
Comb your daddy Charlie's hair. Mama would put her hands through his hair.
She was a great spoiler.
Mama was. See, I never saw that side of her.
Well, and I bet you that she had vertigo and it wasn't diagnosed, because I can see. I've told you I can see her behind that bed in the front at the beach, tottering to make up the bed for you, and when you were coming, and I'd say, Aunt Sil, let Rebecca make up. No, I want to do it for her. And I'd get on the other side and try to help her, but I couldn't. She'd be already back there.
Dizzy. I do remember her talking about being dizzy.